Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life with me, your host, Giuliano and Jake, what's going on, man?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining me today. Um, let's just jump right in, man. Tell me a little bit about yourself and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I love
Yeah.
the premise of the show, and it's good to meet you and chat this morning. My name's Jake Kennington. I grew up in California for 30 plus years of my life, Central Valley, Fresno or Clovis, if you're familiar with it.
Okay.
And just recently, in the last couple of years, moved my wife and 4 kids to Salt Lake City, pretty close to Salt Lake City, about 30 minutes south of there.
Nice.
And it's been a journey. We moved for a job. I'm a structural engineer by trade. I feel like I wear a lot of different hats, and we'll probably get into some of these things, but I write children's books. I'm a personal development coach for kind of mid-career professionals.
Wow.
I do a lot of different things, but yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's cool. So you have 4 kids though, you said, huh?
I got 4 kids, ages 2 to 11.
Wow. Yeah, we just had our first and he is 5 months old.
Oh, fun. Oh, yeah. Congrats, man. That's super cool. You said it's a boy. What's his name?
Yeah, Graham.
Graham. Oh, awesome. Congrats. Yeah. That's cool.
No, it's definitely an interesting journey. It's so funny because I remember before back when I was single, and then even once we were married and, talking to people who have kids, it's so funny. I think that there's a lot of things in life where people will make it seem like it's something very different than what it actually is. And I guess what I mean is like I interpret things differently. Like I don't tend to like go through things and come out with it with the same takeaways that everyone else does. Okay. And so for me, like when it came to like having him, people are like, your life is going to change forever, right? When you have a kid, your life's going to change forever. And I don't disagree with that, right? It's only been 5 months. I'm not saying that it hasn't changed, but it is interesting the way that it's changed. Like, I think to me, like the biggest takeaway, at least for me so far, is that everything in your life before you have a kid is quittable. Okay. Like if you don't like your job, you can quit. If you don't like where you live, you can move. If you start going to school for something and you don't like it, you can drop out. Like everything in your life is like, I could just stop, right? If you start a new diet, if you start a new exercise regimen, you're like, this just isn't hitting for me. You can quit. And with a kid, it's like, that's not an option. You don't have a choice. Yeah. It's like, you just have to keep going. And I think to me, that's probably like the biggest difference I've noticed. And because I wouldn't say, now obviously between my wife and I, because she is the one who is taking care of him, like we before he was born, we're like, what are we doing? Like, how are we handling things? And it's basically like she's taking care of him and I'm taking care of everything else. Okay. Like everything else in the house, cleaning, all of that stuff is me. And she's just, her focus is him. That was how we like decided we were going to do it. So obviously for her life has changed way more than mine has, right? Because her entire schedule every day revolves around him, which I'm super appreciative for. But despite that, right, especially as he gets older, because right now it's like so much revolves around him and also her, right? She has to constantly take care of him. Whereas like once he gets a little bit older and like I can feed him and like he doesn't have to like be with her all the time. Then it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I actually kind of see our life, not necessarily that it's not changing, but that it's like he's just kind of along for the ride, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love everything you said there. I think my takeaway from that is similar, having 4 kids and one that's 11 years old now.
Yeah.
The stakes feel higher, right? Like you're saying, like it's not as flexible. Life isn't as flexible. Because I remember I've been married 15 years. I think I've known my wife for 16, almost 17 years. And so back then, before that, when I was single, like you're saying, I would just do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and it was so flexible. Yeah. And that's a unique time in our lives. And I think what's interesting is we have these terms, we say like phase of life or stage of life. And, you're just in a different phase of life. And interestingly, with my business Actively Human, with my coaching program that I run, this is like a big thing that we hit on, is that we change. Like you were saying, people say, oh, your life is going to change. I would say, yeah, life does change like in different phases of life, but I think it's us that changes even more. Like you were saying, it's like you just feel that there's more at stake there with the decisions that you make in your life. And there's a quote I really like. I have it on my whatever this is called, my
Lock
phone
screen.
screen here, the lock screen. Yeah. And it's from a guy from, thousands of years ago named Heraclitus. He said, no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. And so life is the river. Life does change, right? If you look at a river, it's moving and meandering. And if you go check it out a few years later, there's erosion and it might be wider or taller or more water or less water. But also the person, the individual stepping in the river is like constantly changing. And we know that, like you're nodding and you're like, yeah, totally. I get that. I was a different person before my son was born. And now like I make decisions differently about like my job and where I live and how I approach life, because there's these higher stakes. And so you're changing. But something that we don't often admit is that as life changes and as we change, that we're allowed to kind of change our definition of what success might look like for us. And so for me, again, when I was single or even when I was newly married, the things that I was aspiring to, the person I wanted to be and the things that I was trying to achieve and my aim in life, for me at least, was very, I would say, kind of climbing the corporate ladder, getting my college degree, making a name for myself. And none of that stuff's bad. I think we all go through that. But at some point on my journey, as I got married and had more kids and my kids got a little bit older, I started to have other priorities and other values that kind of trumped these other things. And so I still love my career. I still work as an engineer 4 days a week. But I also love writing and I love being with my kids and I love running my business and I love working with people, right? And so there's all these different things that we have to remind ourselves that like life changes, we change. And with those different phases of life, we can value or prioritize different things. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. Because when you talk about different seasons in your life, I think it's easy to interpret it as, oh, it's this season, so now I have to put away this thing that I love, or it's the, now I'm not allowed to, or I can't do this, or I don't have the time to do X, Y, Z. And maybe that's how you feel. But part of it too, like you said, is shifting what the definition of success / what you want at all can change. Right. And therefore it's like, okay, so with those seasons, if you're like truly embracing them, then you can get to a point where you're like, hey, you know what? It's not just that I'm in this season, right? Like I think back to, I grew up in Chicago. I'm in Arizona now. And when I was in Chicago, I hated the winters. I absolutely hated them, and that was why I moved eventually. But when we're talking about seasons, it's like, well, you can choose to hate the season, or you can choose to embrace the fact that you are in the season and figure out what you like about it, right? And operate within it. That's clearly not what I did. I said, fuck that. And I moved somewhere else, right? Okay. But that's an option too. Okay. Right. I guess that's an option too. But the point of what I'm saying is that like when you embrace the season, you realize, like, for example, if I love like going outside, right? Like, let's say I'm just like a person who loves spending time outside, riding a bicycle, blah, blah, blah. And then it's winter time. I could look at it as, oh man, I can't ride my bike. Or maybe I go, oh, you know what? I've always wanted to learn how to snowboard. And now that the snow's all out here and there's this bunny hill that's just a couple blocks away, like, yeah, that'd be so much fun. And that I think is the difference.
Yeah, no, I love that. I follow a guy, a pretty famous guy, celebrity, Ryan Holiday. He writes about Stoic philosophy, right?
Yeah,
And
the obstacle is the way, right?
The Obstacle's Way. Yeah, he's got some great books. And I was just listening to something the other day. He was talking about, I think it was a football coach. I don't remember which coach it was, but a pretty well-known, pretty successful football coach that coached at one program, then moved to another program. And we're talking about the weather, which is interesting. The snow and the weather, and you being in Chicago and then moving to Arizona. There are a lot of things that are outside of our control, right? And he was talking about this coach and how he moved from, I think it was like a warmer climate to a colder climate to work at this new job.
Mhm.
And he was in an interview and they said, "Hey coach, like, are you a warm weather kind of guy or are you a cold weather kind of guy?" And I loved his response. Ryan shared his response. He said, "I'm a dress for the weather kind of guy." Meaning, like, you don't control the weather. You know what I mean? Like,
uh,
it doesn't matter. So, like, adapt to the things that you don't control and focus on what you do control. Now, your argument is,
mm.
well, screw Chicago. You know, I do control where I live, right?
uh,
And so I think that's important, making the distinction between, you know, things that we can control and things we can't control, and then just being
yeah.
intentional with our
Yeah.
decisions, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, and the thing is too is that I think, see, I I love what you just said. Also, I think that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're unaware of what we have control over.
We have
Right? Just
way
like in
more
that scenario,
control
it's like, I
of
just
things
gotta
that we
deal with
can.
I just gotta
Mm-hmm.
deal with the winter. I have no choice. Right. When in
Yeah.
reality, it's like, well, do you though? Right. Because
Yeah.
when we moved across the country, so many people we knew were like, are you, is it like for a job or like what's going on? And I was like, no, I just want to live there. What are you talking about? Right. And they're like most people couldn't wrap their minds around because, I mean, to be fair, there are pros and cons to it, right? Moving across the
Sure.
country, starting over brand new
Sure.
somewhere else, the fact that all of our friends and family were back home in Chicago, like it's made a difference. Right. We have a kid now and we don't have any family close by to just like watch him when like, so we don't get like a break, right? We're with him all the time. And anyway, my point is that there's pros and cons, whatever, but even still, it was our choice, right? We could,
Yes.
if we could have lived in Chicago and sat there and been like, God, I hate the winters here. Why are we still here? It sucks that we have to be here. And it's like, but do you though? Right? Like, yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of work. Yes, there are pros and cons to it, but do you have to? No, you don't have to live there. You can go live somewhere else if you want. And so I do think it's important to be aware of what we have control over or not. Like, let's say if the weather was global, right? Then we wouldn't have a choice. Hey, you just got to deal with the seasons. But sometimes we think the weather's global when actually you just live in the Midwest where it's chilly in the wintertime, right? And you could live in the Southwest where it doesn't get cold.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We don't realize how much we actually have control over, right? Like you're saying, if we don't control the weather, well, we do control where we live, or the lifestyle that we've created, or the job that we have, or the person
Yeah,
that we're with, as far as a relationship, all those things. And so we have way more control. It's just when we don't have control, we've made certain decisions, like I'm going to live in Arizona
yeah,
and there's pros and cons. Well, those cons, like, they're not negatives. They're just things that you adapt to, right? They're outside of your
exactly.
control because you decided on these parameters over here, and then you
Yes.
roll with the punches, right?
Yes. And to be clear, this is all a metaphor, right? Yes, I'm
Oh yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
for sure, for
moving,
sure.
but like this is a
Yeah,
metaphor here, right? That like there's so many aspects of people's lives where they feel like they don't have control. And I think that's like I feel like on the very beginning of my personal development journey, I
mm-hmm.
actually wanted to write a book about this, and then I realized someone else I think already had. But like this idea of taking responsibility for your life, right? There's so
mm,
many things that and it's so common. Like I feel like it's so common now to the point where it's hard to scroll social media where it's so common to just be a victim, that like everything in your life is like outside of your control and it's just happening to you. And like it's hard to watch like when you realize that that's not true, right? That like most things are actually within your control. It's hard to watch it. But yeah, I remember thinking like at the beginning of my journey that like that was the like light bulb moment, I think, for me,
mm-hmm.
where it was like there are things that are within your this, which seems so, I mean, it just seems so damn obvious, right? Like now, especially you're a personal development
Sure.
coach, you're just like, well, duh, right? But like in
Yeah.
the beginning, when like there's so many things that we just accept, right? That we're just conditioned to believe and
Mm-hmm.
conditioned, like ways that we live, that we've just been conditioned to do so. And so I start reading and I'm like, oh yeah, wait a second. There are things that are within my control and things that are outside of my control. And if I can identify what those are and really to what level, right? Because there's
Mm-hmm.
certain things that are, to a certain extent within your control, and other
Sure.
times like this, like the thing about where you live, right? Yes, it's within your control, but it's also a really big decision. So
Mm-hmm.
like the point is there are things within your control and outside of your control. And if you realize that that is the case, the things outside of your control, you can basically, for lack of like, let's just say you can forget about them, right? It's outside of your control,
Yeah.
right? Figure out a way to deal
Mm-hmm.
with it because it's outside of your control. But if there are
Sure.
things that you can control and things that you can influence, then that puts you back in the driver's seat. You don't have to live your life like a victim.
Yeah, I like what you said at the beginning there. Something about like you're in charge of your own life, and that was kind of such a simple concept, but such a big epiphany for you. And I've been on that same journey in my own life in the last probably 5 or 6 years. I think we all naively are in this mass trance. You know, the status quo. We
Yeah.
just do what the person in front of us does. We do what our parents did. We go to college. We get the degree. We get the job. We climb the ladder. And again, I'm not trying to paint a picture of like that's the villain. What I'm trying to say is what you just said is it's like sometimes it's not as intentional as we should be, right? It's just kind of
Yeah.
like going through the motions. And I learned a lesson from Dwayne Wade about this. I was at my alma mater. I think it was last year. I met a friend that was attending the school I got into college, and I don't know. I graduated 2014, so it's been a minute. But I met a kid that was going to school at my alma mater. He told me about this business class he was in, and I said that seems like a really cool class. It's the owner of the Utah Jazz teaches this class,
Okay.
and he just invites all. This guy's like a billionaire, right? His name's Ryan Smith, and he invites all his like billionaire friends to come and talk about business. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. I wonder who's there. And he says that's the catch is he doesn't tell us who's coming ahead of time. I was
Mm.
like, oh, that's interesting. He told me about some people that had been there. And I thought, okay, hit me up when you think there's a good one coming. And he texted me a few weeks later. I showed up and he said, we don't know who it is, but the teacher, again, Ryan Smith, he goes, you don't want to miss this. So I show up and there's like, it's this auditorium. It's like stadium seating and this giant classroom, 400 seats. People
Wow.
are on the floor and the hallways. They're like everywhere. And we barely squeeze in and we sit down and in walks D Wade, 3-time
Mm.
NBA champion. And you know, those guys, they always show up like a posse of people. They have like 12 people with them and they roll in. And there's Ryan and D Wade, and they sit down, and for an hour, they just sit in the front of the class and they just talk. They talk about the NBA, they talk about business,
Wow.
they talk about a lot of different things. But the one thing that stood out most to me is Dwayne shared his experience being on the U.S. Olympic men's basketball team. I'm not like the biggest basketball follower, but I know that those guys don't lose. Like they
Mm.
are the best of the best. They hardly ever lose. And so here is Mr. Dwayne Wade on this team. He's already a great basketball player, but now he's on a team with the best of the best, like the elite
Mm.
of the world. And you can imagine there's a lot of egos on that team. And there's like the best coaches, and you're just in this environment where you're like, you really want to win and you want to help your team. And I think that relates to us as well. We're all on teams, right?
Mm.
Different teams. We're in families. We have jobs. We go to churches. We're in neighborhoods. Whatever those teams look like, and we want to be the best teammates. But this is what he said, and it really stuck with me. He said, "What I learned on that team, that U.S. men's Olympic basketball team, even with all the talent and the level of skill that they had there, both coach and players." He said, what I learned is it's not the coach's job to figure out how I can best help my team. He said, it's not the other players to figure out how I can best help my team. He said, it's my job to figure out how I can best help the team. And so I took that and I'm like, okay, I don't play basketball, but what teams am I on and how can I
Mm.
best help these teams? Like it was this
Mm.
ownership idea of like, it's my
Yeah.
life. It's not the coach's life. It's not my family's life. It's not my neighbors or my team at work. It's my life, right? And it was like
Yeah.
this epiphany moment for me where I was like, I just have to be super intentional, not in a selfish way because it's all about me, but actually because I want to be the best teammate that I can be, right?
Yeah.
But
No, I
that's
love
on me
that.
to figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that because well, yeah, it's funny because when you talk about being selfish, I actually feel like it's okay to be selfish. I think we're like taught like it's a bad thing, like, oh, you don't want to be selfish. And I actually think that the most, I think the people that people think are the most selfish are actually like the least selfish. I think that really what it is that the
Yeah.
people that are truly selfish, like are doing things that are making themselves better which in turn makes the people around them better. And, you know, by extension, the world around them better. Because really, when it comes to like, I guess my point is, is that it's not bad to be selfish, right? And that's just like a common thing that, and I'm not saying this to correct you. I'm just saying because when you said it, it popped in my head. Because ultimately, like you said, we're all on different teams, and the players, us, like, I think, you know, a basketball team is a good example. The players on the basketball team, if they were like, well, I don't want to be selfish and focus on me, then it's like, well, then they wouldn't be the best player they could be, which would make the team the best team that it is. Right. So like for me, I look at it and I go, well, if I prioritize being the best that I can possibly be, then that means that it will, by definition, raise the value that I provide to every team that I'm on.
Exactly. Yeah. The way I phrase that, and I agree with what you're saying, is that when I focus on me and my own personal development and myself, is I often say it's not a selfish desire of mine, although it is of self-interest, right? And because I'm part of a team, and it's kind of like the weakest link idea, right? We're all links and we're all on the same team, and I want to be able to help serve. You can't help other people if your cup's empty, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to work on yourself. But to that point, what I also say about this idea of being selfish is that in more of a traditional sense of the word selfish, because I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is I tell people that the most selfish thing you can do, like the most selfish thing you can do, is live a life of mediocrity. Meaning just be like, well, it's not about me, and just kind of this kind of humble, you know, vibe of like, well, I'm not gonna say anything or do anything, or I'm just gonna kind of sit back, or, you know, because it comes off as like humble or that you're not being selfish, right? But in reality, you are. And so the best way to help other people is to fill up that cup, right?
Yep.
And then be able to pour into other people. And so, yeah, you gotta make yourself a focus. You gotta have your priorities right. Whether you use the word selfish or selfless or self-interest, like, I get it. I totally get it. I'm on board.
Yeah, no, you're right though. And I will say, cause right, when you hear the word selfish, normally it's like, there's a negative connotation to it, like selfish in the sense that, like, you know, it's to the detriment of other people.
Sure.
But like the way I view selfish is that, like, hey, this makes me feel good. That is selfish. And to be honest, I think anybody that has a massive impact and has a positive impact on other people is extremely selfish, because it feels really fucking good. Right? It feels so good to help other people. Like when you like leave a person and they're just like, man, I feel so good. And they're like, I feel so hopeful, or like, like that completely changed my perspective, or blah, blah, blah. Like, God damn it, that feels good. That feels so good. And you know what? It's so if me prioritizing myself feels good at the highest level, right? That is the highest level of selfishness, right? Is like making myself feel as good as possible. And like, that truly is like the way to feel as good as possible, is to have like a positive impact on other people, and to like do it to like the greatest capacity that you can.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's kind of this pouring out, right, of helping other people and giving. And ironically, again, I would use the word, it's not, I wouldn't use the word selfish. I would say it's of self-interest, but it's the same, it's the same thing. That's what we're talking about. It's like when you teach, or you guide, or you help, or you coach, and I think you've been a coach. I was listening to a couple other episodes, and I think you've had some experience in this world. It's incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah.
Right. And you could use the word selfish there in the sense that, like, you get so much out of it. And so there's this weird paradox in life that when you give, you get, right. And then the opposite is also true. When you take, it's not really that fulfilling. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's selfish in the sense that it's like helping you, but it's two sides of the same coin, right? Helping other people helps you.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you've been stuck waiting for the right moment to start your business or scale the one you already have, this is for you. OPM Mastery helps entrepreneurs get the capital they need, and you can get pre-qualified in under 2 minutes with no credit check. They've already helped over 1,200 companies secure more than $134 million in funding. Whether you need working capital, financing for real estate, money to purchase equipment, or you're just launching something new, they can help you qualify fast. Just go to funding.howtobeaperson.co or click the link in the show notes to apply now. All right, back to the show. Well, and it's funny too, because then if you think about like the traditional sense of the word selfish, in reality, it's like you're actually hurting yourself, because people who are selfish in that traditional sense, they don't feel good about themselves. That's what I was trying to say before, is that they're actually deprioritizing themselves by acting in that traditionally selfish way, because they don't feel good at the end of it.
It's a very short-term view to be the traditional selfish, right? It's like, exactly, let me just grab this real quick and take, and then in the long term, it doesn't feel good. Yeah.
So, hey, tell me, you said that you've written some books.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you talked about writing a book. I'm in my author journey. I've written one children's book for my oldest son. It's up on Amazon. We wrote it a couple years ago, kept it as a family project. Yeah. It was my way to like teach my son what I thought was an important life lesson, and kind of leave that legacy with him. I don't think we have enough in this day and age, like heirlooms or like physical things that we get to pass on to our kids. We have stories and we have photos and we have things like that, but we don't have a lot of the physical. And I'm not like a very sentimental or guy, about things. Like I don't really care about things. Yeah. But when you make a thing and then pass that on, it has a different meaning. And so that book was meant for my son. And ironically, it's we had a dog before we had kids. This was 16 years ago, 15. Let's see. Our dog just passed away this year, so he was 16, I think. And so I wrote the book about us having a dog and him being like the center of our life. Not really, but we were dog people. Yeah. And then we had kids, and it was like all of a sudden the dog like didn't get all the attention, and the kid got all the attention because he had to. We got to keep him alive, right? Yeah. And the book was written from the perspective of the dog, of his life changing, and initially thinking like, well, this sucks, like who's this kid? And then eventually they become really good friends, right? They live together for my son's 11 now. And so they had 11 years with each other and many, many fun memories. And so the idea of the book was embrace change, even in these like difficult moments, talking about things that like we don't control, right? Like he didn't decide to all of a sudden have this extra human in his life. Yeah. But what I noticed about writing that book was that it was for my son. But again, going back to this like teaching and coaching and parenting and helping ourselves, really it was a message for me, right? It was like, I need to be able to better embrace change for the better, I would say. There are things that are good to remain the same, right? There are things, routine is good. Not everything in our life needs to be upended all the time, right? Yeah. But there are things that we should be working on for improvement and betterment and change. And so I wrote that book for him, put it up on Amazon a couple years later, because me and my wife were like, man, this is such a good project. We should like share it with other people. And for me, that was a missing link. It was like, I shared it with my family, yes, but it was just like us, 5 or 6 people. And it was great, but it was like, man, the selfish thing to do here, going back to this idea of selfish, would be just keep it for us. Right. It would be like just us. It's just our thing. But really it was kind of my ego. It's like, is anybody going to like this? Is it going to resonate? Are they going to say this is stupid? Is it dumb or not very good quality? And so we polished it up, put it up on Amazon, made it like worthy of what it should be. And, we're not this like $1 million, book sales or anything like this. We sold several hundred copies in the last 18 months, 2 years. Yeah. But it was such a fulfilling experience for me, not only creating it, but then sharing it with my family and sharing it with other people, that I've seen pictures of them reading it with their kids or reading it with their parents or sharing it with a neighbor. And it's been incredibly fulfilling on my end to see the impact that book's made, to the point that I've now committed personally, selfishly to make 3 more. So 4, because I have 4 kids, but also because my second son, he's 8. My second son is like, Dad, where's my book? And I'm like, oh no, yeah, I can't make it for the oldest kid and play favorites, right? So yeah, so I'm writing children's books, but I'm also writing kind of a longer, in the personal development space book, similar to what you were talking about. That's a bit of a longer journey. The children's book will be out early next year, the second one, but the longer book will take a little bit longer, hopefully 2027.
That's so cool, though. What's the name of the kids' book?
So the one that's out right now is called The Difficult Life of a Little Brown Hound. And it's up on Amazon. You get it there. Just look for my name, Jake Kennington. And then the next one is going to be called, the working title is The Leap. And I keep looking over here because on my right-hand side, I've got a white wall with like a storyboard. I've got it all written. I've got pictures on there. And I'm just kind of looking for another illustrator. I might use the one that we used on the first one. She did a wonderful job. It's a lady in Turkey. Her name is Sita Koskin. She does great work, and the first book turned out really well. This is just a little bit different kind of book. And so I'm looking for the right illustrator to make that happen. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been really fun. I'll get your information. I'll send you a copy of the book. I think you're
sure. That would be awesome. That would be really cool. Yeah. Cool. We have a friend who wrote a children's book, and shoot, now I want to call it out, but it's called Pedro the Adventure Pup. They have a dog. Love that. It's about, everyone wants to write a dog, book about their dog. It's so popular, funny. No, it's a great book. And my wife and I were it's so funny that you said this, because like my wife and I were just talking about that we want to like publish a book on Amazon. Cool. For our son, right? Like I'm like, I just thought about that. We could just make it whatever we want it to be, And because I've published a couple books already myself, and having done that, I realized, like, this isn't as hard as everyone makes it out to be. Like, this is kind of fun, and like it's so cool, like you said, to like have something that it's like, look, we made this for you, and like anybody could buy the book, right? And it's like it'll just be like up on Amazon, which in itself is just a cool thing. But having something like that, like you said, to be able to like give to your kids and like pass it on and be like, we wrote this for you, we made this for you, and so it's definitely a cool journey.
Yeah, it's been fun all around. My son that's 11, one of my equations or recipes, if you will, for how to help other people. I think people are good natured. They want to be helpful. They want to serve. Yeah. But a lot of people are like, I don't know how to do that. Right. And so you get involved in the community, you go to your local shelter or something and help, or whatever you try to do. And those things are great. I think we should volunteer and give our time. But I think one of the best things that we can do to help and serve other people, this kind of equation or recipe, is create something of value and share it with other people. That's really simple. It's not hard to do, but it's difficult to do at the same time, because it requires us to be a little bit vulnerable and be like, well, what could I create, and what are my skills, and what do I have to offer? And then vulnerable in the sense, like I said with my book, it's like, now I got to go share it with people, and they might not like it. Maybe nobody buys it. Maybe they buy it and they don't like it. Maybe I get some low reviews on Amazon. Well, guess what? I just go make something else, something better, and share it with other people. So you're doing this with the podcast, right? You've created this podcast and you're sharing it with people. Yeah. And I think that's a way that you show up and serve and help, right? We do that at work. We do that in our families. Yeah. But I think it's incredibly powerful, because it has this aspect of, in the creation of whatever you're making, you're improving yourself and what you think. You're refining whatever it is that's going on up here, and then putting something out into the world. And then in that sharing process, you are helping other people, which again is kind of a loop, comes back to you, right? Whatever you give out comes back, karma, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah. It's funny. This also started making me think about what you had mentioned earlier about like this kind of like fake humility thing. Yeah. I think like, because we were talking about being selfish, you mentioned humility. I think it's like appropriate to bring up. I feel like there's certain characteristics that are like promoted, right? That like from a young age, it's like, well, you don't want to be selfish, and you need to be humble, and blah, 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 and all those things. And I'm like, that is not, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that I am humble, but I don't think like people would just see me and be like, wow, he's so humble. Like to me,
Mm-hmm.
humility is being able to admit that you're wrong. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's it, right? There's a chance that I'm wrong. No matter how confident I am in anything I say, there's a chance I'm wrong. And so to me, that goes like, that's the definition of humility. But like there is like a performative type of humility where, like you said,
Sure.
it's like, oh, well, I'm not important and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you've not only maybe it's not performative, but it's self-deprecating, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've crossed the line from like, hey, you might be wrong to like you're diminishing your value. And I think like what you said, going out and like building something of value, and it doesn't even have to be something you sell, right? Like you mentioned,
No,
I mean, it could
no,
be,
not at
it
all.
definitely could be,
Yeah,
but it doesn't have to
sure,
be. But
sure.
focusing on being of value to others, right? Like you said, creating something of value and sharing it with other people, it is this like refining process for yourself, but you also get to
Mm-hmm.
like make an impact at the same time. And you have to like face these parts of yourself that you thought like you might not even know, right? When I'm saying, when people are saying those things about humility, they probably don't even know, because that's how I was, right? I remember thinking that way in the past. And it's like, I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing until you get to a point where you push past it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I was
Mm-hmm.
convincing myself that I was just being humble, when in reality, it was the opposite. Like it's exactly what you said, where it was ego. It's like
Yeah.
literally my ego was preventing me from doing that. I was convincing myself that it was the opposite of ego that was keeping me where I was, when in reality, it was ego. It was me being afraid of what people were going to think. It was me being worried about if I was good enough, if I could actually do what I set out to do, all of those things.
Yeah, it's almost like what we really want, we can't chase, meaning success, happiness, whatever it may be. It's like those are byproducts of something else,
Yes.
right? And
Bro, I
so
literally said that exact phrase like a few episodes ago.
oh, I love that. I swear I didn't listen to it. I think we're on the same wavelength. To go along with that, I heard a celebrity, I think it's Shia LaBeouf,
Okay.
kind of controversial dude. He's been in some like domestic abuse disputes and some other
Okay.
things. He grew up on the Disney Channel and whatnot,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I love his acting. I don't really know him on a personal level,
Yeah.
but some of his later movies he's been really, really good in. And I
Okay.
saw him do an interview. And the reason I bring up his personal stuff is not that it matters, but he's not perfect, just like we're not perfect. He's got life struggles. He's dealing with some crap, whatever
Yeah.
his crap is. And he said this that I really love, that ties into what we do. He said, I stopped trying to be happy, and now I try to be useful.
Mm.
And so he's not chasing happiness. We all want to be happy. That's great. We all want to be humble. We all want to be productive and help other people and all that stuff. But really, like the goal should be go be useful, right? And again, this ties into the whole idea of like it's going to refine us individually on a personal level, because to be useful, you've got to like go get some skills and be of use somehow, create something, make something. And that's not hard. Like making a podcast, although you said like writing a book isn't that hard. It's like, it's not, it's easier than people think, but it's always takes more time and effort than we give it credit as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's this weird balance of like, that's why we don't do it. That's why we don't start, is because we see this mountain in front of us and we're like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? And it's like, you start at step
Mm.
one, and you be useful, right? You be useful
Yeah.
to other people, which is also useful to yourself. And so, yeah, I love that he was like, I stopped trying to be happy and now I'm trying to be useful.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. So there's a
pretty
couple things
profound.
I wanted to touch on about
Yeah,
what
go
you said.
ahead.
First of all, I saw this clip on Instagram recently, and I don't really talk about like conspiracy stuff in here, but I thought it was kind of interesting, and it's somewhat related to this,
Okay.
where what he said was, it was this guy, I forget exactly who he is or what his qualifications are, but I've listened to some of his other stuff and he's really good. But one of the things he said was that like people in the news, he literally listed people like Walter Cronkite or something like that, and like
Yeah.
other people. He goes that they're literally CIA operatives. It's documented they were in the CIA. They're like literally operatives from the CIA. I'm not saying this to promote that. I don't care. Right. What I'm
Sure.
saying though is that he said all that means, he's like, I'm not saying to like throw away the news. What I'm saying is, when you hear something, all you have to remember is maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because when you were mentioning Shia LaBeouf, it was just
Yeah.
like, it's so easy to like form an opinion about a person or
Sure.
about an event or assume things, when in reality it's just like all we know is what we've been told, and what we've been told we have no idea if it's true. And I think
Sure.
that is ties back to what we were talking about with humility, right? Ultimately I can't know for sure, and I'm not going to claim to know because I wasn't there and I didn't see it. So anyway, I just wanted to comment on that. But the other thing that you were
Yeah.
saying about, the things that we want really being a byproduct. It's so funny
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like so many things we talked about are like hitting this like bell in my head, because I'm putting together a coaching offer around relationships. I'm going to offer
Oh,
relationship
cool.
coaching, and one of the things that like is core to it is one of the things we've been talking about is like focusing on what's in your control, right? And that ultimately your relationship, like whether or not you have a good relationship or not, is essentially based on like the experience you're having in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship, right? So if you go, hey, like I'm happy, I feel great, then it's like we were talking about. If you're on this team, what do you want to do? You want to be the best version of yourself in that team. And when you mentioned byproducts, that was the thing that's like, it's such a big deal. Like I think so many people set the wrong target when it comes to marriage.
Yeah.
And this is not their fault. Okay, just to be clear, this is not anyone's fault, because this
Sure.
is just what everyone preaches that it's supposed to be, right? What does everyone say at the altar? Till death do us part. Okay? And now your goal is to make it until you die. But what's hilarious is that like that like statistically speaking that just doesn't happen. Like it does not happen, okay?
Sure.
And that being the case, it's like, are we going about this the wrong way? Like it's so many people
Mm-hmm.
will go like my wife and I watched this show on Netflix called Love is Blind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a relationship dating show, and people will
Sure.
talk and they'll be like, oh yeah, my parents, they got divorced, it was messy, blah blah blah, divorce is not an option for me, divorce, I'd never want to get divorced, blah blah blah. And I kind of laugh about it because I just think like, dude, most people do. Like you have to understand that like most people get divorced. Like that just is how it is. And ultimately it's like I don't know if you've heard this before, this example of like on like this long country road that's totally empty, and there's like, except for there's like a single pole, and that like 80% of the accidents on the highway happen with a single car hitting that pole. And you're like, how does that happen? Like I don't like what? There's miles and miles of open road, and these aren't even multiple car accidents, single car.
Hmm.
Basically it's like our mind is like a steering wheel, right? And like
Mm.
whether we're thinking about what we want or what we don't want, we're steering towards that thing. And so by thinking I don't want to get divorced, I don't want to get divorced, you're steering yourself in the direction of divorce. And now that might be not be obvious on the surface, right, that that's what you're doing. But if you think about it, a lot of people do this, right? They get married and they go, till death do us part, right? Sign on the dotted line, and now you're married until you die. And whether you want to admit it consciously or not, you don't have to, you technically don't have to do anything after that, right? You go like, I won, right? I have this person until the day that I die. And again, this is not consciously, but subconsciously. And the target is longevity, right? You go, I want to have a long marriage, when in reality, a long marriage is a byproduct of a good marriage. And so
Yeah.
the target should not be a long marriage. The target should be a good marriage, which will, by definition, end up being long. And it seems like it's not a big deal. Like you just think, well, yeah, of course, everyone wants a good marriage. But it does make a difference, right? Because of what we were talking about before. If you are
Yeah.
focused on being the absolute best partner that you can be, that is what will result in a good marriage. But when
Yeah.
you're focused on getting to the end, right? Like there's a finish line, all you need to do is get through it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get through it. I'm trying to enjoy it right now, today, every single day. I want to, and maybe people think this is realistic or not. I want to be happy today. I want to be happy. I want to enjoy my relationship right now. I don't, my goal is not to get to the end of my life. My goal is to make today the best version of our relationship as possible. And because of that, I probably will end up there, right? We probably will end up dying together because of that, but that's not the goal. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
a kind of a long rant, but I feel like it fit into
No,
a lot of
that's
what we were
great.
talking about.
Fantastic. The way I would say that is one of my personal definitions of success is wanting to do this again. It's very simple, but it's the idea of this infinite game. Like whatever game you're playing it so that you can keep playing it. Like you're saying, like there's no destination in mind. Like sure, there's like there's pit stops, there's milestones, there's like achievements, like those aren't bad in and of themselves.
Exactly.
But really it's like, why are you even doing this? And there's two types of games in life, right? There's games where you play to win, and then there's games where you play to keep playing, right? And so when I go play catch in the backyard with my sons that are 11 and 8, like, I'm not trying to win. You know what I mean? I just want to be able to come back tomorrow, and I want them to still want to play with me, right? And as they get older and move out of the house, I want to maintain a relationship with them. Like, that's my goal as a father, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens in my business. So with Actively Human, you know, I'm on this journey, and I'll share this with you because I think this will resonate with you, but I'm on this journey to kind of leave corporate America. Again, not to paint that as a villain. It works for a lot of people. People are happy doing that, working a 9 to 5. I grew up with a father for 40 years. The last 40 years, he worked for himself, and he was a jeweler. And I got a front row seat to entrepreneurship. And that scared the crap out of me. I was like, I don't want this, because I saw his struggles, and I saw that money was tight sometimes. And I saw that he was married to his business, and my mom worked there, but never got paid for her whole life. Right. And we kind of grew up in the back office. And as a kid, the perception was like, this is not for me, you know? And then on top of that, my dad said, don't do what I do. He's like, go to school, get the degree, get a job, get the benefits, work the 9 to 5. But in the same breath, he would say, but I would never work for anybody else. And so as a kid, I was a little confused, but I was also, I gravitated towards the, let's not do what dad does. And then 35 years later, I'm in my mid 30s, and I kind of have this epiphany moment. And I've talked to my dad about this several times since. And I said, Dad, is my memory serving me right? Did you really tell me those things? Like, don't do this. And he's like, yeah. And then we kind of had a conversation about why and whatnot. And it was he saw it as his job as for, again, not to simply follow the status quo and follow the leader and do what your dad does. Like he knew that running a business was hard. And then if any of his kids wanted to do that, he wanted that to be their choice. Right. And so at 36, 37 years old, whatever it was, when I started to do this coaching, I was like, this is my choice. I want to do it. It's intentional. And the reason I was trying to get out of corporate America is because I was fed up personally with giving somebody an hour of my time and them giving me $50, because I felt like they had control over my life. Yeah. And so earlier this year, we moved to Salt Lake City 2.5 years ago. Earlier this year, I left that job and went back to the engineering firm in California that I currently work for, but I worked for a decade prior, on the contingency with the promise that I could go to 4 days a week instead of 5. Yeah. So what I'm on a journey doing is like scaling back, not just jumping off the ledge and being like, screw corporate America, I'm going to do my own thing. Yeah. But it's more of like a transition to working for myself, running Actively Human, coaching. And Fridays, today's a Friday. This is my funnest day of the week, because I get to be on podcasts. I get to talk with my clients. I get to do something that's incredibly selfish looking from the outside, but really it's helping other people and being a good steward of my time, talents, and treasure. And ironically, what I do with Actively Human is I do exactly that same thing. I help people follow that same transformation. My tagline is like, we help established professionals win at home without losing at work. Whatever that looks like. A lot of people stay in their 9 to 5. They just do it with more purpose and more intent, and not just simply doing what the guy in front of them is doing. Some people leave their jobs. Some people start their own thing. Like you said, you don't have to create something and share it with people and charge people for it. You could just make cookies if you like baking and share it with your neighbor. Exactly. You know what I mean? Exactly. But it also can be a business. But overall, either way, whatever you choose, it's a lifestyle, and there's an intent behind it. And so, yeah, I'm loving life. Life isn't perfect. It still has its ups and downs, and I have my moments. But I'm on this journey, and I'm for once in a long time, I feel like I'm thriving, even though that isn't perfection, right? Yeah. There's hard things that I'm still grappling with, and new identities that I'm trying to put on with this whole entrepreneur thing. coaching thing, still doing the father thing, but tying this all back into playing the game to keep playing the game.
Yeah.
That's why I created Actively Human, was because I saw that my 9 to 5 was not something that I wanted to continue doing long term. But then the question becomes, well, what do I do long term? What's the game?
Yeah.
What's the game that I want to play and keep
you want to
playing?
keep playing. Yes.
Exactly. And so that's my version of that. Yeah.
Man, I love that so much. Jake, I know we're kind of coming to a close here. Sure. I just want to let you know I really appreciate you coming on the show. I feel like we had such a great conversation. I wish we had longer to talk, but for anybody that's listening that wants to connect with you, whether it's over Actively Human or just in general to like chat with you or connect in any sort of way, how can they do so?
Yeah, I'd love to share a free resource with your audience. If anybody's interested, if they've kind of liked some of the things that we've talked about in the themes and they want to check out what I do, the website's great, but sometimes you want a little bit more like, what do I do? And especially like a takeaway or an actionable item. So I've created what I call the Own Your Life Playbook, and anyone listening can get it at activelyhuman.com/playbook. It's like a 5 or 6 day email trickle. It comes out every day for 5 or 6 days, and it'll give you some very actionable steps on how you can kind of reorient your life in the way, again, that makes it more meaningful for you, and to use the terminology that we've been using just now, to keep playing the game and wanting to keep playing the game. And so again, that's activelyhuman.com/playbook. Love for them to grab that. And then again, I'm on LinkedIn. They can go to activelyhuman.com, check out my website. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on the show. And I loved our conversation. This has been great.
Yeah. Same, man. All right, man. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Okay. Thanks, Giuliano. We'll see you.
Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.